News Bulletin from Power 12 Digital.
It is Wednesday, the 1st of November, 2023. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley yesterday announced the state will redouble its efforts and hunt down perpetrators of violence. And Her Excellency President Christine Kangaloo has called out 100 members of TNT's Volunteer Defense Force to boost support for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service from October 30th till Carnival 2024. Dr. Rowley's tersed warning and Kangaloo's proclamation for more Defense Force assistance follows the recent spate of 8 murders in 24 hours in Arima, Belmont, and Diego Martin between Sunday and Monday night. Some 481 persons have been murdered in the country so far this year. Dr. Rowley released a statement early yesterday notifying the public government is redoubling its efforts to curtail acts of violence. The Prime Minister said, quote, "Notwithstanding the persistent efforts of the various state machinery, the selection of violence as a way of life and the love affair and glamorization of firearms and the wanton disregard for human life in Trinidad and Tobago has now gone beyond concerning to ridiculous." He said this intractable situation now demands that the law-abiding citizens be given the right to their peace and safety above the freedom of the lawless and the violent few who operate with impunity. Dr. Rowley heads the National Security Council and warned the current violent crime spree will not be tolerated. The state will redouble the efforts to curtail violent outbursts. And mere hours after the Prime Minister issued his first statement, he also issued another statement saying he was meeting with members of the heads of TNT's police service and defense force. He said another post meeting with Commissioner of Police Earl Herod Christopher and Acting Chief of Defense Staff Captain Kemba Hanese, National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines, Energy Minister Stuart Young, Attorney General Reginald Armour, and Minister of Housing Camille Robinson Regis at the official residence of the Prime Minister in St. Anne's yesterday. And the opposition is asking the Prime Minister to reconsider his refusal to attend the need-proposed crime talks and include what it describes as all willing stakeholders to increase the expertise available to the government. It claims many experts, individuals, and entities who are willing to meet at the crime talks and work with the government are being shunned and excluded for no sensible reason. The UNC alleges there is no focus on the root causes of crime and the underlying socio-economic problems that drive this issue. Chief Fire Officer Arnold Bristow maintains transparency is followed in the procurement of goods and services for the TNT fire services. He made the comment while speaking with members of the media yesterday. His remarks come on the heels of an investigation into the purchase of 20 wooden ladders for $1 million for the fire service, and media reports that indicate the ladders are now behind the fire service headquarters in Rice Road because they cannot be mounted on fire trucks. President of the Fire Services Association, Neil Ramkissoon, said there is need for clarity on what happened surrounding the purchase of these ladders. A businesswoman is on 9 charges following allegations of $525,700 in vehicle fraud, and she's been granted bail. Terkisa Berriton Duncan, 40 of Superior Road, San Fernando, faced 5 charges of money laundering, totaling $150,700, lastly in the amount of $153,000, fraudulent conversion of the amounts of $57,000 and $161,000, and uttering a forged valuable security. Berriton Duncan, who was charged on October 24th, was granted $500,000 bail by a justice of the peace. She's expected to appear in the San Fernando Magistrates Court on December 14th. The businesswoman was arrested and jointly charged by Corporal Lewis and Constables William and Ali of the Fraud Squad South Office after an investigation was launched into police reports in which several people alleged handing over down payments to a woman believed to be a roll-on company. According to reports, down payments were used for the importation, registration, and delivery of various types of vehicles. It is alleged the woman was never in a position to execute the transactions, and all efforts by the prospective buyers to retrieve their funds proved futile. Yesterday, on October 31st, 2023, UTT's administration building at UTT campus, Tamina Tech in Wallafield, was renamed in honor of Professor Emeritus Ken Julian. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley delivered the feature address at the naming ceremony. The Prime Minister said, quote, "It is my distinct privilege to deliver the address on the occasion of the dedication of this UTT admin building to the university's esteemed founding chairman and president, an outstanding son of the soil, a revered national icon, a patriot, our very own Professor Kenneth Julian, familiarly known as Ken Julian. The event was also attended by Her Excellency President Christine Kangaloo. In news of the region, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley says the government is seeking to borrow $50 million from the African Import-Export Bank to upgrade the historic Kensington Oval to the next level. Ms. Mottley made a remark while addressing the second Afro-Caribbean Trade Investment Forum 2023 in Guyana this week. Barbados is to host matches in the 2024 ICC Men's T20 World Cup. And finally, the BBC is reporting Elon Musk and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak are to do a live interview together on Thursday evening. The tech billionaire is expected to attend the Global Summit on Artificial Intelligence ahead of this meeting. The summit at Bletchley Park hopes to bring together AI experts and global leaders to discuss the potential risks of artificial intelligence. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
Rabbit. Good morning, neighbors. It is the first day of November. Good morning to you, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. Fullcasting this morning. Yep, we just heard from Paul Richards, our news brief. We'll have major news coming up at 7 o'clock with AV, Sid, Hill, Bob. We'll hear from Richard Raghubar Singh. Wendell will pop in a second. Ruben is lying on his couch. My name is Steve Khan. All right, let's get straight into the WTs, see what's happening, weather, and traffic eyes at this time. Yeah, 8 minutes after the hour, 6 o'clock. Let's go to the east-west corridor, see what's there. Yep, I'm seeing one accident. It's a minor bunk accident just before Piarco Lights as you head westbound. Trinity City to UE, then not too bad. By the interchange, you get some volume, and then you'll pick up some traffic by Swim Call as you head into the capital city. Eastern Main Road is not too bad at this time. Going through Macoya, Page, and through Mount Hope, a little bit of volume there. Kelly Village from St. Helena, that's a heavy spot this morning. Let's head down south. Make our way up north. I got nothing to tell you about in San Fernando. Solo is pretty clear. Rivulet Road is pretty clear. And just before Chase Village, you'll pick up your traffic towards Sugar Guanas. And Main Road is getting a bit heavy for those on the eastern side of the Solo. All right, so that's a quick traffic update for you. Hope it helped you out in one way or the other. Let's check some temps. Yep, it is 25 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 26 at Crown Point in Tobago. What your weather is going to be like for today? Yep, let's see. It's updated. They said generally sunny with a likelihood of showers over a few areas. There's a low 30% chance of isolated thunderstorm activity, especially near western areas of Trinidad. This evening will be fair, apart from the odd shower. Maximum forecast temperature for today will be 34 at Piarco, 33 at Crown Point in Tobago. Toronto, you're cold, clear, -1. Ouch. Yeah. Miami, 23 and clear. Orlando, 19 and clear. New York, you got a drizzle at 7 degrees. Atlanta, you're at 2 and clear. Yikes. 13 and cloudy in London. 19 and clear in Tampa. Washington, D.C., you're sitting at 3 degrees with a little bit of cloud. L.A., Los Angeles, our listener out there, partly cloudy and 16 degrees. All right, that's some temps across our listenership. Let's see who sent us hellos first thing this morning. A lot of people usually send us hellos first thing. We love it. Oliver Man Warren, it's Hump Day. Good morning to you. Wendy and James D. Pierre, good morning. Hump Day Wednesday, that's right. Rennie Mohammed, good morning to you. Anthony Tinto in the cold Ontario. Marcia Rock, always locked on. Rena Boodoo Jennings. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Carol Joseph. Doma Bennett, good morning to you out in Covington, Georgia. Gloria Gray, good morning to you. Yes, Rabbit. All right. Good morning, good on to Paul Richards. What's up there, my friend?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Randall.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's Wednesday, November 1st. It's All Saints Day, isn't it?
Yes.
All Saints
Day today.
All Saints Day today.
Tomorrow is All
Yep.
Souls.
Mm-hmm. So happy day and happy birthday to those celebrating birthdays today. Raphael Morgan, who is the Deputy Chief Public Defender. Merlin Callis. Frank Martino is celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday, Frank. Clifford Rambarose, he is from St. Oropuch, I think. He was a candidate down there. Jamal Joseph and Remy Chinapu. They are all celebrating birthdays today, along with Solomon Dindial and Kenwin Henry. Karen Ashe, our national Calypso monarch, former national Calypso monarch, she is also celebrating her birthday today. And Adrian Schoon, everybody would know that name.
Oh, yeah.
Famous entrepreneur, young entrepreneur. Happy birthday, Adrian.
Yeah.
Those are all my birthdays today, November.
Yeah,
1st.
yesterday was the birthday of Senior Council Larry Lala and Candy Duke. Let me say good morning going out to my good friend Patos. Good morning to you, Patos. And Chris Toussaint, good morning to you as well.
All right.
Let's start with a strange but wonderful story this morning.
Strange but wonderful. Let's go.
A strange but wonderful story yesterday, which happened in Tobago, where a school of dolphins were beached. And residents of Tobago, the area, tried to get them back into the water. Wasn't that odd, but interesting, but kind of heartwarming to see the residents and the people on the beaches trying to get the dolphins back in the water.
Yeah.
Very strange occurrence. Very, very strange. You see animals, mammals or whales or dolphins usually beach when they are diseased or something geomagnetism gets their navigation in their brain messed up.
Yeah, they get disoriented.
They get disoriented, so they lose their sense of direction and their sense of orientation, and they swim up on the shore. And the dolphins breathe air, but they can't survive out of the water. You understand?
Yeah.
They dehydrate and die. So they got back some in the water, but I don't think they got back all in the water.
Oh, I didn't see this video.
The next best thing is mahi.
Somebody gonna be selling some dolphin over there.
Somebody gonna eat some grilled mahi. Yeah, so that happened yesterday. It was very interesting. Made the rounds on social media.
Okay, I didn't get that. Strange enough.
Yeah.
I got a very disturbing video of an incident in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where a man shot a father and a son. And I mean, that is such people. Why are people so angry?
COVID.
Humans have always been angry. Since we crawled the case, we've been angry.
The man, I don't know what happened. They say it's over some loud music. Paul, maybe you can pull up that video too. We just warn people it's graphic. It's a bit graphic too.
Well, I think we shared enough shooting video yesterday.
Oh gosh, yeah. But this one is not local, but this one shows how dangerous having a weapon is, how bold-faced you get, and how stupid you can be with a weapon in your hand. Because he had the weapon. The man, wherever argument happened, the man came at him with a scissors. But the man was backing away. And if you notice how the man was holding the scissors, it wasn't in a way that it could have even injured him, in my opinion. That is my opinion, right? And the man was already backing away from him because you pull out your gun and then you still go and shoot the man. You shoot the man's son.
I agree with you, but the people will also say you can't perceive somebody's sense of fear and threat.
Well, fine, Paul. But what I'm saying is that in that video,
Yes, the
people
response
could
was inordinate,
people
disproportionate.
could judge for themselves. That man, that is what you call overkill. That is murder. You walk up to the man after he done on the ground and shoot him again. The man is of no threat to you.
Tell that to the people, the Caucasian people who shot over the years, the black people in some of those states where they have those laws.
Yes.
Walking with a hoodie could be a threat to somebody, and they kill you for that.
I know.
Tell that to Trayvon Martin.
I know how it has gone. I know how it goes down. You know, but it's just another example of human behavior. We are behaving like animals, because I don't know if people know in the animal kingdom, they kill one another for food. They kill one another for sport. The animal kingdom is rife with that type of behavior. You understand? We now, who got the brain and the superior intellect and the choice, we behaving worse than animals. Trust me. We humans who were put here for procreation behaving worse than animals.
Well, that statement presumes that we were better than animals to begin with.
But we were created to have dominion over them.
No, we ain't behaving like that. To me, we never behaved like that. Since we crawled to the caves, we've been clubbing each other over the head. And as the weapons got more sophisticated, we could kill more than one person with a pull of a trigger or the press of a button.
True.
And they dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What was that? Right now, Israel and Hamas. The hospital is getting bombed with children. So thank you. So I don't know why you're surprised with a man with one gun. I'm not endorsing it in any way.
I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised, I'm just giving examples of how human behavior is deteriorating daily worldwide. So a lot of people,
since we don't have time.
Yeah, a lot of people will look at Trinidad and say, "Oh, Trinidad gone through. Trinidad is this, Trinidad is that." Well, guess what? It's happening all over the world in different forms. All over the world.
When you could press a button and send a bomb and hit a hospital and kill children and sick people, there's a different level to me.
Yeah.
In the name of stopping Hamas.
Gavin Nicholas, though, put up a post. I don't generally
Who's that
agree.
again? His name sounds familiar.
The 10-day Attorney General.
Oh, okay, all right, I get it.
The man who had a party with 10 people, 9 of his family, and became a press secretary, a high commissioner to London, and an attorney general with 10 people in his party.
Kobo Sweat Attorney General.
But he put down a post yesterday that I have to agree with, right? And I don't normally agree with a lot of his posts. As a matter of fact, I've challenged him openly and he went quiet. But this post yesterday, I'll read it quickly for people, right? He said, if one is objective and traveled, it is hard not to think that a well-run Trinidad and Tobago can indeed be the best place to live. We have every resource for the most fantastic lifestyle on the planet. We unfortunately let a few handfuls of really selfish people mess it up for the rest of us. And then he points out 10 things that Trinidad and Tobago has. 1, 12 hours of sunlight every day. 2, oil and gas in the ground. 3, a pitch lake. 4, a diverse and majestic array of flora and fauna. 5, a perfect blend of topography. 6, a large, I'll just close it up. A largely sheltered location. 7, beautiful beaches. 8, a magnifying blend of people and cultures with boundless talent oozing. 9, the right mix of rain, wet, and sun-dry weather. And 10, a relatively small and managed population. No other country has this perfect blend. How stunned can you be to mess this up and take a virtual paradise and make it into a crime-ridden, dysfunctional tragedy of chaos and backwardness? To all those who read my post, from whatever ethnic, political, or religious group you belong, let us put an end to this tragedy and rally together to build the nation we are entitled to. Stop pretending that wrong is right and down is up. We deserve to live in a progressive, prosperous, safe, joyful, tolerant, efficient, sustainable, equitable society. It is our birthright. I couldn't help but agree more with that statement. That's probably the best post Gavin Nicholas ever put on Facebook. Because he's put a lot of nonsense sometimes. But that post, that is as true as you can get. Anybody listening here know Gavin Nicholas? Tell him Wendell Stephen talk about his, read his entire post on Facebook today and agrees with it totally. You understand? It is devoid of the political nonsense and then he's put and whatnot. That is a post that everybody should read and agree with. Because that is so very true. We have the perfect place called Trinidad and Tobago. The perfect place with boundless riches, beautiful people. All you look around, you see the most dynamic things, buildings that we could be proud of, all manner of things. And we are messing it up. We are messing it up. Ah, Lord, I feel sorry for children and grandchildren and some of the young ones coming up. What will they enjoy? I remember myself as a child. The scariest thing was Dwen, talking about Dwen and Sukiya when we were growing up. Whoa, you're frightened to go on the road. It barely had street lights. The place was dark. It's under Mr. Manning when he brightened the place, if people remember. The place was dark to go about. Huh? The scariest thing was a man who used to follow soap water to see where people bathing. He was the scariest thing in growing up in St. James. They call him soap water Cody. Huh? Or the man who hanging a dolly inside of a fruit tree so that children can't go climbing the fruit and they calling him a Obia man. That was the scariest thing we had growing up.
So there was mixed responses on social and digital media yesterday to a post from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley saying, and I'm quoting, that notwithstanding the persistent efforts of various state machinery, the selection of violence as a way of life, the love of fear and glamorization of firearms and wanton disregard for human life in Trinidad and Tobago has now gone beyond the concerning to ridiculous. This intractable situation now demands that law-abiding citizens be given the right to their peace and safety above the freedom of the lawless and the violent few who operate with impunity. He said the state will not tolerate this crime spree. So there was a lot of mixed responses to that. While I do agree that the Prime Minister would have had to make a statement given the previous 24 hours where 8 people were murdered brutally, and whether you feel the members are gangs or not, or they deserve it or not in your mind, it is still not normal or agreeable to, right?
Yeah. True.
A lot of people were saying, okay, and what?
Yeah.
And what? So you make a statement about what everybody is thinking, and then what?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And then he put out another statement saying that he was meeting. Well, people are scared and really anxious. And that's why I started by saying he would have had to say something. I don't think he could just stay quiet on what has happened in the 24 hours before, because it is profound. But I also understand, okay, the bandits are listening to that. You understand?
No.
So that's a statement for you and me, not because the bandits don't give 2 craps about that.
True.
No.
That is happening them. And that's why I understand the other side of the response. And what? So then he put out another statement that said that he was meeting with the Commissioner of Police, acting head of the Defense Force, the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Energy, and the Minister of Housing.
Yeah.
But isn't that every week?
Yeah, that's basically
My cabinet meeting.
Isn't that every week? Isn't that a National Security Council meeting?
It is. It is.
I understand where it may be convened out of the ordinary weekly meeting because of the preceding 48 hours. But then what is going to come out of that?
You see, Paul, what this government has to do, And what past governments have not done, well, except, and I raised this the other day, except possibly for the man in government that tried. Our problem, whilst we have a problem with the youth and you want to disarm them, disarm the gun runners, disarm the people who bringing in the bloody guns. That is where our problem, most of our problems lie. Those are the people we have to go behind. Running behind these young people, going after them, yes, we need to do it. Yes, we need to disarm them. Yes, we need to not tolerate them. Yes, we need to hunt them down. But what are we doing about the people who are bringing in the guns?
We need to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Oh, goodness, man.
We need to do what you said there. We need to deal with the people who are really importing the illegal guns and drugs. We need to deal with customs. We need to make the police service more efficient and less corrupt. Or we need to deal with increasing wealth inequality, poverty. And we need to deal with that funnel at primarily the primary school level that is failing about 2,000 out of 18,000 every year.
Yeah.
All of the above.
So I would have added to that statement about these people who are this level that feels nobody could touch them. You have to add that statement.
That's what I reference. That's what I mean by the people who are bringing in the illegal guns and drugs. In many cases, posing as legitimate businesses and are able to bring in these containers or boxes or however it is coming in that seem to be untouchable and unstoppable. Seem to be. And the customs officials that are aiding and abetting them.
Yep.
Because they're not doing it on their own. They can't do it on their own. They are specific, I'm not saying all, customs officials or people in the vicinity of the customs machinery that are complicit and have been for decades.
Yeah, we have a big problem, and we and looking down at the last line of the problem ain't gonna help.
And, I understand the last line is the line that impacts us directly, the population. So it's the line that gets the most reaction, but it's like keep putting a plaster on the cut on the leg that's rotting. We're not dealing with the core inside the body, the issue inside the body. Effectively. Let me say effectively. You understand? Because it's not that there have not been efforts to do it, but the efforts are not bearing the kind of fruit because there's so many gaps in the system.
They're not. Because have we heard anything from the police, the TTPS? Let's go back to the TTPS concerning that quadruple shooting in Belmont. Have we heard anything? I heard Richard raise again yesterday the issue. Belmont is a small community that is so narrow.
Small roads.
Yeah. Where could they have gone? Didn't CCTV cameras pick up where this vehicle went?
Which ones? The ones that were kind of the ones that we didn't maintain.
Because
those are the issues to me that a government in power for 7, almost 8 years has no excuse about.
Yeah.
That, to me, okay, you can't deal with everything one time. Different points of the problem have different rates of solution. But you can't tell me that you inherit, let's say out of 1,500 or how much ever CCTV camera, you say you have a national security grid that understands that technology must assist human beings.
Yeah.
And you, in your 7th year, you are now procuring more CCTV cameras to replace ones that gone down?
Yeah.
How you explaining that to me?
Yeah.
How? Who are you blaming for that? You understand? No, because from the time you're coming, national security has to be supported by a huge array of technology.
Yes.
And one of the main sources of technology available to you is CCTV cameras.
Right.
That's not even high tech again. Every other person's house have that.
Exactly. Right. Agreed. Technology that is tried and tested.
So if you know that you need to do an audit of your CCTV camera cache stock in the country, ensure there are particular areas that have them and they're operational and the systems in place to support gathering data from that. AKA the name changed so much times I can't remember what the name is. National Operations Center, National Operation Command Center, whatever already decided to call it, the same thing, where data coming in that the police could use.
Yeah.
You understand? And you have to have the infrastructure that is maintained, like the police cars, like the guns. You can't send police with a gun that's ticking. Police need data to respond effectively because you can't have a police officer everywhere. So if out of 1,700 CCTV cameras, you could report that 800 or 700 down, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And at that point, when you did the audit, you realize, well, okay, they're not fixable, right? They run the course of the life cycle, product life cycle. You have to put in place a system where you're constantly buying and repairing. You understand? Because at some point they're going to become obsolete. Customs officials told a joint select committee, and I asked them specifically, when they said we kind of missed the boat with the ordering and procurement process for new scanners. Did you not know the life cycle of the scanners when you took office? Yes, but so why then didn't you order scanners, new scanners, based on the life cycle of those when you know they become obsolete so that you don't have a gap? Crickets. This is big people in high-ranking public officers' positions who just sit around table every week and discuss issues related to the running of the entity. And nobody can say, oh, yeah, that thing coming up in 3 years, you know, we ought to set order now, because you know the process will take 2 years. Is it just me?
Nope.
And you know, I'm glad you raised that.
What I'm saying is it's not even for bright people to talk about. You can be of average intelligence and know that if you have a broom in your house, you have to replace the broom before all the fibers run out.
Wear out.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
every commissioner for the last 15 years talks about this body cam issue. And we have remember McDonald Jacob? We are training them and we ordered new ones, but the regulations said we have to train them. All of them misuse the phone, the police, and them to do a kind of video. And they need 6 months to train to use their body cam. I am of the view, like that I want somebody to challenge me that there is a resistance at the senior levels of the police service about that pervasive implementation of body cams.
You have the view?
They have resisted it behind closed doors for years. There's a public statement they make, because the public statement is the only palatable statement, but there's an internal private policy. That thing could get we in real trouble. Anyway,
it's tiring.
I need to get a check with you today. I think I deserve
Oh gosh, yes. Can I get a PP?
Yeah.
I did ask this for a couple of weeks now.
Listen, Monday, I was in a line in Hot Shop, one long line.
I went yesterday and I turned back.
You ever see people?
Really?
I went yesterday and I just turned back. I said, not me in that line today.
My son wanted roti. And I was kind of surprised. I said, good, we're going for roti. So we gone in the line and we reach up to the top port. I order me beef with chana mini. And I order a beef regular for him. The girl writing, she write up the thing, Paul. And then somebody come and say, and she say, no beef. I say, what? I turn and walk straight back up. Well, to the relief of, because the line behind me long too. So everybody started stoops because that is what chop beef is the roti. If it's not the beef is the goat, but it's the beef is the roti. So you could not have beef with all them people in there.
Boneless chicken.
You should go Juman for a roti. That's a good roti.
But I was in Port of Spain.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Professor Emeritus Kenneth Julian, to whom this country owes the greatest debt of gratitude.
Yes.
Whose intellect has powered our energy sector.
Mm-hmm.
So building at UTT's Tamina Park was, the admin building was renamed in his honor yesterday. Her Excellency, the President and the Prime Minister were in attendance, and the Prime Minister gave the feature address. I mean, if Ken Julian in Europe or the US would have been Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, right? Or better.
Yeah.
Or actually brighter. You understand?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. He is that giant of an intellect.
Yeah. I met him once, you know. Actually,
I met him a couple of times.
At his home in Kumana, up Toko. I went there to a wedding, actually. And it was his son.
He's one of the brightest men in the world.
Yeah.
One of the brightest minds in
he's an imposing figure, yeah?
Let me tell you something. You can have a prime minister who don't respect him. I don't care what political persuasion you come from.
So very true. Very true. Yeah.
Because you cannot even discount his intellect.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So congratulations to him.
Yes, congratulations. I saw Professor Clement in there yesterday to the gas station and stopped to congratulate him. He was that gas station in St. Augustine between the bus route and the main road. I saw him there yesterday.
Morning, Raghubar Singh.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, child listeners.
And congratulations to the people who report a businesswoman who ended up on 9 charges of fraud.
What did she do?
She faced 5 counts of money laundering, totaling $150,700, lastly in the amount of $153,000, fraudulent conversion of the amounts of $57,000 and $161,000, and uttering a forged valuable security. She was charged on October 24th and granted $500,000 bail by a justice of the peace. She allegedly, but she was charged already, but still allegedly because she's not proven guilty yet, take money from people for down payment on a roll and off car.
Oh God, people still doing that?
It is alleged she was never in a position to execute the transactions, and then when she tapped the people money them, you can't find she answered your phone. I mean, woman, where if you're living, you can go from Missouri to Florida. You can't run too far in this place, you know.
Yeah, but people themselves with the hard-earned money still getting catch with them kind of thing.
Well, people, maybe she had a storefront. People just put a big storefront and big sign, and they know the mirrors and smoking mirrors and glass and thing, you know. They know how to put on the show, you know.
Yeah, some fraudulent people really good too, eh?
They good at it, you know.
Yeah, but you see my money that I work hard for, I real careful with that, you know. Not that I haven't been scammed, you know. But because I worked so hard for it, I real careful. Paul, where you laughing at?
Well, those people may say the same thing too.
Who?
No, I say those people will say the same thing too, that they work real hard for the money.
Mm-hmm. I sure she pretty, and it's mostly men get catch.
Well, pretty woman is catch real men, eh?
Oh, pretty women don't catch real women too. Okay.
Well, yeah, but they sketch.
No, but they will tell you in broadcasting school, and this is a factor. You know why they put primarily attractive people on television to read the news? Because the human brain is hardwired to believe attractive faces much more easily.
Mm.
So it don't really matter what you're saying, you know. Once you're pretty, they'll watch, and something.
You know, one of our best readers of news wasn't exactly a pretty person. I wouldn't identify the person.
That's a perception.
I won't identify the person on here, but you worked with her, Paul.
So who has the papers?
I confused.
I
am
not that person.
confused.
Not that person.
Very
No, I
quickly.
know people would think. I know people
I
would go
am
to
moving
that
on
person.
very
Not that
quickly.
person, Paul.
Okay, let's
You
move
did
on.
TV
It's
with
Wednesday,
her.
the
You did
1st of
TV with her.
November, 2023. I can mute your mic, eh?
I have newspapers.
Thank you. Go ahead with the newspaper. My suggested question this morning, before you go into that, is Gary Griffith says the camouflage law serves no useful purpose. So my question is, should we repeal the camouflage laws of civilians?
Oh Lord, I'm tired of asking about that.
Well, unless you have a better question.
I don't mean we tired of asking a poll about that. But I agree. I don't mind that poll because that thing is
run
so
quickly into
stupid.
the news before when I get everybody in trouble this morning.
Let's get the headlines. Trinidad and Tobago Newsday for today, and just in case you didn't know,
Paul, I'll message you the name.
I don't want no message. I don't want nothing on my phone.
I'm messaging you the name now.
I don't want nothing on my phone, please. And it's very difficult. Remember, anybody who's sitting next to me is going to have a tough time.
Oh God.
Trinidad and Tobago Newsday. Today, of course, is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. So we're into the month of November. The main headline, PM demands action after murder spree. Hunt, disarm criminals. That's the headline, that the PM demands action after murder spree. Hunt and disarm criminals. The Dolphins come ashore at Store Bay. That's another sub-headline. And All Saints Prep. Chandra Prasad looks on as the gravesite of her mother is cleaned by a volunteer at the Marabella Public Cemetery on Tuesday in preparation for All Saints and All Souls Night, which is this week. And on the back page of the Newsday, today's the Anglican one. The Anglican one is first, not so?
Yes.
And then the Catholic. Gold Cup hopes slip for TNT CWI Rising Stars Championship. And Ahi sprints to Pan Am 100-meter bronze, so congrats to her. And that's it for the front and the back of the Newsday. I'll move on to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for this morning. On the front page, the Prime Minister's on the front page again. Prime Minister, end crime spree. Warns criminals violence will not be tolerated. Holds emergency talks with security heads. 100 Army Reserves called out to help. CFO defends $1 million spent on wooden ladders. And PTSD workers protest over faulty buses. All of that is on the front page. And the main picture is of a suspect is held by police officers after he was rescued by fire officers at Chatham Street, Port of Spain yesterday. He and 4 accomplices had allegedly attempted to rob the Payless warehouse along Queen and Frederick Streets when he became stuck between 2 buildings. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, Ahi snatches sprint bronze. On to the Daily Express for this morning. And what did the Daily Express go with as their front page? Headline, I'll tell you. Hines goes after liars. That's the front page. PM promises state will hunt down criminals. Earlier happy with Defense Force call out, while Hines goes after liars. Officers rescue trapped suspect. That's also on the front page. Fire chief on ladder fiasco. Don't blame me. Kamla public relations disaster on crime problem. All of that is on the front page of the Daily Express this morning. And on the back page, Bronze Queen, IE secures 3rd, Thomas 6th in women's 100-meter final at Pan Am Games, and Team TTO at Pan Am Games Well, they have what's going on today, I believe, yes. And that's it for the 3 dailies this morning. All right. Thank you so much, Richie Rich. Let's get the results of our morning poll from yesterday. Yesterday, we asked you, do you think the 100 Defense Force personnel will make a difference in arresting the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago? Final results are in online. 82 said no. All right, so let's get into this morning's poll.
Should laws outlawing the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? Boy, that fancy, yeah? You couldn't do that.
I'll change it to prohibiting.
Yeah. Should they just do away with these stupid asinine laws concerning camouflage? Because that's what they are. Imagine a woman in a pink tie camouflage had to go through all that craziness the other day on a video. She take it off and fling it at the police. Should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? What you change? They just change prohibiting, outlawing to prohibiting.
Yeah, well, laws outlawing is not proper construction.
I agree. But okay. All right. Should we?
You agree, but you want to argue about it?
No, I argue nothing again with you.
See where he's getting in trouble?
Yeah. You prettier than everybody, yeah.
Oh, God.
You have to be careful where I'm selling for you. You have to be careful where I'm selling for you. All right.
No, I agree with you. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
So you have to be careful where I'm selling for you. Horrible person, Wendell. Horrible. So that's the question this morning. Yes or no?
Laugh in the morning here.
You have to make some people laugh, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Oh gosh, for that.
Should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? That's our poll this morning. And of course, it rides on the statement of Gary Griffith, who I don't want to misquote him, but who basically said that law is rubbish. Yeah. Of course, we'll speak with him after 9 this morning. After 7, sorry.
Mr. Camouflage himself, eh? Look now, if he was commissioner and that was still a law, he'd have highest stretch out on the ground, though.
You want to rephrase that? You want to rephrase that?
Take it off. He'd have make all of them take it off.
Stretch out and strip you.
Yeah, that is exactly what he did.
Let's get back into our poll. Let's say good morning going out to Ingrid Adams, Karen Yipnow, Mo Gaines, Richard Duku, Arno, good morning, Trinidad Mango, DJ Ray out in Delaware, good morning to you, Cheryl Seeley, CJ from New York, Rena Boodoo Jennings, good morning, Guy Small, Helen Prescott, Carlisle Cupid, Ambrose Blau, good morning. Beauty Culture.
We have votes coming in.
Mrs. R is locked in. All right. Good morning, Mrs. R.
CJ from New York, yes. Straight
Dorma
talk, yes.
Bennett said yes.
Gregory Boyer, yes. Beauty Culture, okay, she didn't vote. Our unpassionate lover, who's clearly some kind of fanatic from somewhere, says not absolutely no. Kenny and Harlem says yes. Mo Gaines says yes. And Slick Money Grip says yes. Lorna Kalu Singh says yes. Karen Yipnow did not vote. DJ Ray says yes. Dilip Celeste did not vote. Avanel Brown says yes. Richard Duku says yes.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sandy Gandhi, yes.
All righty.
All right.
222-8255. Toll free, North Americans, 866-524. 1099, our morning poll again. Should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? Karen Yipnow says yes.
All right.
All right. Maria Celia, yes. Maria Marva, morning to you. Star 8 Talk.
Straight
morning.
talk.
So
That's what it means. Straight talk. Not star 8 talk. Straight talk.
I don't know. Carol Guevara says yes. Straight Talk is in London. Good morning to you. All right, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. That's a toll-free number or poll. Just vote yes or no. Should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? Yes or no? Anu says no. Ish out in Malik says yes. What says you, caller?
Yes, good morning to the bottom. I'm listening. Breakfast team.
Morning.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. All right.
You have that siren so close to them, man.
Well,
It's true. It could be anybody.
yeah. It's true.
It could be anybody. That could just be somebody. That could just be somebody jumping them groceries in.
But to go in double is not already morning.
That had to be no real emergency. You know.
Transporting some wooden ladders could be that.
No, could you imagine? I don't know, no? $1 million, but you notice, what was striking to me about that was that the cost of it just under what you don't need cabinet approval for.
999,000.
You realize that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when I did the calculation, each ladder cost $50,000.
That didn't
A
escape me.
wooden ladder cost $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody get through.
Somebody laughing to the bank.
You understand? And the chief fire officer said he had nothing to do with it. So who ordered that?
He said that
Trying to pay wooden ladder.
it didn't happen under his watch.
Okay.
Oh, he just got a job.
So it's in the back it's in the back of the fire headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Let me tell you something, procurement people in public office. Forget the
When
politicians.
When you see it comes just under $1 million, you know somebody had a plan.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's
You
a
know
position.
somebody had a plan.
There's a position in organizations. Now they have procurement officers. There's a position called stores keeper in plenty of these organizations, brother, or facilities manager. See them positions?
999,000. You see that? You see that number? Keep that in your mind. When are you sitting coming under that? or it may cost 3 million, but you'll get 3 orders for 999,000. Not so, Wendell?
Yeah.
Okay, it may cost 3 million, so let me how you can get around that, boy. Or put it in 3 orders.
Mm-hmm.
Ladder order A, 999,000. Ladder order number B, 999,000. Order number 3, 999,000.
Alistair Hart says yes.
Yep.
All right. Should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing be repealed by civilians, that is?
What we can legitimately find use for those ladders for now in the state, we got to use them for something.
No, they say they're in use, you know. They say because the wooden ladders are used on electrical poles because they don't conduct electricity, right? So they say that the ladders are being used. So it's a misnomer that they're not being used, that they can't be used. So there are 3 ladders on a truck, and there's a choice. So the wooden ladders are used. You know, I guess the issue really is the cost. But for the fire officer, the chief fire officer, to say it didn't happen under my watch, well, just tell us when it happened and let people draw their own conclusion. You understand? Don't just leave me us hanging by didn't happen under my watch. Say these ladders were acquired during May 18th, 2010 or May 40th. Let me know May 40th now. May 30th, 2016. You know, say something. But don't say it didn't happen under my watch. Say when it happened and let people draw their own conclusions. Let people go and find out who was the chief CFO then, or who was the line minister, because everybody, they don't start to blame Minister Hines, you know.
I keep in a list of things to keep track of it.
In fire services.
I have a notepad here and keeping track of things we need to keep track of. What is the outcome of the investigation into the death of the prisoner from blunt force trauma last week?
Mhm.
I keep a notebook here keeping track. What is the outcome? We didn't hear from the acting commissioner of prisons. He said he didn't see the official autopsy last week. I'm sure you see it by now. Did he also fall off a chair to get the heart attack that he said he did from?
I'm sure a lawyer is already speaking with that family concerning suing the state. I'm sure. And they're going to get a whole lot of money eventually. You understand? And the people responsible.
And it's a bit more than that to me. From the autopsy report I see, somebody murdered that man. I don't know who. He was beaten to death.
That's what I'm saying.
While in state custody.
Those people are going to be promoted and they'll get the pension before.
I don't know if because there is a counter narrative that maybe is the inmates kill him. So I can't say whether it's prisons officers or inmates, but somebody murdered that man.
So just so a whole bunch of prisoners get to pounce on the next prisoner and kill him.
I don't know.
No, but there needs to be an investigation. But you're not even hearing word of an investigation.
Actually, I have a notebook here that I write. It
has to be an investigation. Anytime somebody dies in state custody, you have to ventilate it and investigate it to find out, well, what was the cause? What happened? Are people to be held accountable? And if people are to be held accountable, so be it.
The House is meeting today at 1:30. I think they're going to debate the polygraph testing thing, which needs a 3/5 majority to pass. So you know what's going to happen there.
That's
what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa and her party needs to do: go into the parliament, support all the laws, the legislation that the government bring in, and then you could talk. But if you're supporting nothing and you still, what point is that? Support it and then you could criticize, because there's a good chance some of these things we too far gone with some of these things.
I don't agree with that.
Well, that is my opinion.
Well, I'm not discounting your opinion. I'm just saying I don't agree.
No problem.
I mean, too far gone. I don't understand. What do you mean by too far gone?
No, I'm saying there are some things that, regardless of what law you bring now, won't reverse it in a hurry.
Oh, you mean that way? Okay.
Yeah.
I think all laws that require 3/5 majority needs extra scrutiny.
Exactly, and that's why they're 3/5 majority. It is not because they interfere with people's constitutional rights. It's not as simple as many people make it out to be. There's a reason why some laws are simple majority and some laws are special majority. Because if the law is going to take away some of your rights or reduce some of your rights, you understand? Or minimize some of your rights, it has to have extreme scrutiny.
I don't disagree with that.
So now that why the principle of the law may not be in question in terms of the objective, how the law sets out achieving that may have some questions to it. You understand?
But opposing just for opposing's sake, to me, can't be productive.
I don't know that everybody's opposing just for opposing.
All you want to do is go on a platform every Monday night and talk about crime, and the government, this, the government, that, the government. But what you doing? What are you doing to assist? if all you do is oppose. You can't name a team yet. The Prime Minister name a team. You can't name a team yet to do the crime talks. But all you're doing is talking, and criticizing. Yeah? This place in a mess. And it's in a mess because of all of us, regardless of where we stand politically. I can't defend the PNM and some of the stupidness they do. And the fact that they can't fix, as we talked this morning, a CCTV camera yet. Some people shoot up, kill 4 men in Belmont. And where they're going is either they're in Belmont or they drive out of Belmont. To drive out of Belmont, you either have to go up over the Lady Young or around the Savannah and down to town. Where else you go pass? You can't pass nowhere else.
Condell, Stephen.
All right.
They have ordered new CCTV cameras. You should rest assured, be comfortable.
Steve, go to news. I don't want to hear Paul repeat this nonsense. All
right, let's do that in serious. Let's get into our major news on this, the first day of November. Yep, 54 days to Christmas. AVZ news starts right now.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
The Prime Minister meets with heads of government, TTPS and TT Defence Force following promise to redouble efforts to address crime. The opposition asks the Prime Minister to reconsider his refusal to attend crime talks. Chief Fire Officer assures there is transparency in goods and services acquired for the fire service. And retired auxiliary officers told their concerns about outstanding money are being addressed. Details in a moment. This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sindel-Bab. Good morning. Hours after saying the state will redouble all efforts to address crime, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley met with members of his government and the heads of the TNT Police Service and TNT Defence Force. Hours later, Rowley made another post saying he was meeting with Commissioner of Police Earl Harewood Christopher and Acting Chief of Defence Staff Captain Kemba Hannes, National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines, Energy Minister Stuart Young, Attorney General Reginald Armour, and Minister of Housing Camille Robinson-Regis at the official residence of the Prime Minister in St. Anne's. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley yesterday announced that the state will redouble efforts and hunt down perpetrators of violence. He released a statement early yesterday notifying the public that government was redoubling efforts to curtail acts of violence. Rowley, who heads the National Security Council, warned that the current violent crime spree will not be tolerated. The opposition is asking the Prime Minister to reconsider his refusal to attend the crime talks and include what it describes as all willing stakeholders to increase the expertise available to the government. It claims many experts, individuals, and entities who are willing to meet at the crime talks and work with the government are being shunned and excluded for no sensible reason. It alleges there is no focus on the root causes of crime and the underlying socio-economic problems that drive this issue. Chief Fire Officer Arnold Bristow maintains transparency is followed in the procurement of goods and services for the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. Mr. Bristow made the comment while speaking with members of the media on Tuesday. His remark comes on the heels of an investigation into the purchase of 20 wooden ladders for $1 million for the fire service, but media reports say the ladders are now behind the fire service headquarters because they cannot be mounted on fire trucks. However, Mr. Bristow gave his side of the story on the issue during an interview with reporters on Tuesday, insisting business done by his administrators is credible.
This administration, this current administration, had nothing to do with the acquisition of those ladders, right? And on more than one occasion, I would have submitted to you all, anytime you have any questions or queries regarding issues in the fire service, you all can contact the Divisional Fire Officer Public Relations, and we will be more than willing to answer all your questions.
The Chief Fire Officer said there is accountability in how the current administration carries out its affairs.
Let me make it abundantly clear that under this administration, we would have taken the necessary steps to ensure that procurement of any good or services for the Trinidad and Tobago is done to with the strictest of best practice to ensure that all acquisitions are done that could withstand accountability.
Meanwhile, President of the Fire Services Association, Leo Ramkisoon, said there is need for clarity on what happened surrounding the purchase of the ladders. Mr. Ramkisoon told reporters on Tuesday he's not blaming anyone for the development, but cites the importance of transparency in the matter.
Anything above, I think, 250,000 is beyond the chief fire officer's limit to spend. So if you're spending $1 million, it has to go to the permanent secretary. However, the minister would have been here to commission those ladders, and he took credit for it. So he cannot now divorce himself from the situation. He needs also to be held accountable as well. And if he can't, I am not ascribing any blame to him, but he has to investigate. He has to ensure and bring those officers to account. He cannot just divorce himself from it, and himself cannot investigate himself.
Police arrested 5 suspects, seized a firearm, and recovered stolen items after they mounted a quick response to an early Tuesday morning incident in Port of Spain. According to police reports, around 3 a.m., Corporals Fleming and Joseph, along with members of the Interagency Task Force, responded to an alarm at a warehouse located on Frederick Street. When they arrived at the scene, the officers cordoned off all entrance and exits of the building. The officers then gained access to the building and then conducted a systematic search of a 3-story concrete structure covered with galvanized and concrete roofing. The officers observed 4 suspects on the rooftop, and one of the men was armed with a firearm. The officers also found a black bag containing several sneakers, slippers, clothing, and also housebreaking implements on the rooftop. The officers continued to search the building and observed another suspect on the rooftop of the building. All 5 suspects, ages 19, 22, 30, 32, and 39, were captured and arrested. The firearm, a black 9mm, and magazine containing 10 rounds of 9mm ammunition was also secured. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. A 40-year-old businesswoman was granted $500,000 bail with a surety last Tuesday by a justice of the peace on 9 charges in connection with vehicle fraud reports totaling $525,700. Tercasa Brereton Duncan of Sapporo Road, San Fernando, was charged on October 24th with 5 counts of money laundering totaling $154,700, larceny in the amount of $153,000, fraudulent conversion in the amounts of $57,000 and $161,000 respectively, and uttering a forged valuable security. Brereton Duncan is expected to appear before the San Fernando Magistrates Court on December 14th, 2023 to answer the charges. Lifeguards at Store Bay, Tobago are trying to determine what may have caused 9 dolphins to become stranded near the shore of the beach on Tuesday. Videos of lifeguards and bathers trying to get the beached mammals back into the water were posted on social media. Lifeguard 11 and scuba diver Kester Kent told, or Lifeguard 2, and scuba diver Kester Kent told the Newsday around 11:30 a.m. he and 3 of his colleagues were at their station when they observed 9 dolphins near the shore on the east side of the beach. It was the first time I've seen that in my life, so I don't know what would have been the cause of the dolphins to come ashore, he said. Well, finally, here is weather news for the period today until midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, generally sunny with a likelihood of showers over a few areas. There's a low chance of isolated thunderstorm activity, especially near western areas of Trinidad. Tonight will be generally fair apart from the odd isolated shower. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 33 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently, it is 26 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 27 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, the Prime Minister meets with heads of government, the TTPS and TNT Defense Force following promise to redouble efforts to address crime. The opposition asks the Prime Minister to reconsider his refusal to attend the crime talks. Chief Fire Officer shows there is transparency in goods and services acquired for the fire service, and retired auxiliary officers told their concerns about outstanding monies are being addressed. I'm Avril Sintel Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty. Thank you, Avril, for our major news. You can join again come 8 o'clock for our news brief. Traffic-wise, yeah, it's heavy. Where you think you'll get traffic, you will. Heavy from Maloney towards Uwe, Curep towards Port of Spain. Eastern Main Road is also heavy. Maraval, Diego Martin. Southern Main Road from Sugar Gorners towards Ibis Gardens. That's a bit heavy as well. Rivulet Road and Southern Main Road through Couva. San Fernando, you're the light spot this morning. Lighter than usual. Just getting off the Solo into San Fernando, you've got some traffic, but those like northbound, you're going to pick up your traffic this morning by Charlieville, heading northbound. All right? All right, let's get the results of our morning poll. Of course, we asked you this morning. Our poll is going to stay up until tomorrow morning, online on our app. Of course, we asked the question this morning: should laws prohibiting the use of camouflage clothing by civilians be repealed? That's our poll. Mandel, the results.
Yes, our poll this morning, we had 19 people weighing in on our poll. 17 says yes, those laws should be gone with. And 2 said no, keep the laws. All right, 17 said yes, repeal those laws, and 2 said no. Of course, one person said that we should have added in resembling that of the Defense Force. But I don't know, how do you determine resembling that of the Defense Force? Is it that the green or the blue or the black? I don't know which one, because they use all different colors now sometimes in the Defense Force.
Maybe we could ask our guest.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Come, Gary, put back on my camera. There's too much this morning.
Gary, you stop walking out.
Look at the about the camera. Yeah.
I harass it here. What do you think? Our question this morning, Gary. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah, gentlemen, good morning. So when I was Minister of National Security, I encountered that situation, and I did the research. And Trinidad and Tobago, I think, out of 200 countries in the world, we are the only country in the world where every single form of camouflage is illegal. Now, there are several countries that have camouflage illegal in the resemblance of the Defense Force, and primarily those are Caribbean countries: Jamaica, Guyana, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Barbados. So there was a law that was made in the equivalent of the Defense Act in the Caribbean, different Caribbean countries, that they do not want people to have the same type of camouflage in the resemblance of the Defense Force. So you could see some justification for that. When I was minister and I started walking into Piarco, and I started seeing a pink camouflage toy, a lady with a yellow camouflage cap, that is illegal. So to gentlemen and goodly senator, you will know, laws are not made just to inconvenience people. Laws are made deliberately to form some degree of order, some degree of law to ensure that people can be safer. If a child has a pink camouflage toy, how could that be an issue that is going to affect security, affect you? If a lady has a yellow camouflage cap, it is the dumbest law ever. And no one ever tried to amend it. When I was Minister of National Security, I drafted the note to have it removed because Customs piggybacked on the Defense Act, Chapter 1401, that stated that no one is allowed to have camouflage in the resemblance of the Defense Force. And the reason for that is that someone may get the uniform of the Defense Force, put it on, and then try to imitate a Defense Force personnel and to assist in committing crime, similar to you're not supposed to wear similar uniform to the police service. So that you could understand to some degree. In most countries,
shorts threaten national security. How are pom-pom shorts and camouflage threaten national security? Explain it to me. Is this track police? Is this track Defense Force personnel so they can't do their job?
Well, maybe, but besides that, and that is the point. So there are two laws. There's the Defense Act 1401 that says you cannot wear camouflage in the resemblance of the Defense Force to imitate a Defense Force officer. So that is different, where you have the exact jacket, you have the pants, and you're trying to imitate a soldier. That is different to what Customs did. Customs then there was a copy of that act that said that any type of camouflage, and I said, we are the only country in the world that has such a dumb law. I sent it to Minister Dillon, I sent it to the then Attorney General of the PNM. It was all ignored because all it takes is just to repeal that aspect. So even if we still want to have a debate about the defense force, because you can know, you go to North America, all over the world, you can wear a camouflage jacket. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't see destabilizing them countries.
Pardon?
I don't see destabilizing them countries. I have on a camouflage exercise shorts right now. Like I breaking the, if I go out in public with that, they go rash me.
No,
take it off. Take it off. Take it off.
But as I said, let us take one at a time. There are two laws. At least there could be a debate about persons having the full camouflage uniform of the defense force and you're trying to imitate. But a child with a pink camouflage toy, how could that? So when we walk into the Piarco airport and we see this poster by Customs, I mean, you must be a head of Customs. You must be a Minister of National Security to realize it is a dumb law. It serves no purpose. It does nothing to affect national security. That law should be removed. I drafted it. Minister Dillon took it and threw it in the trash because anything that's done by previous governments, you have to ignore. It is a dumb law and it should be removed. What is just as important, gentlemen, is that most people in the other 200 countries in the world will not think that if I have a green camouflage, a yellow camouflage wallet, you're going to confiscate it when I get to the airport. And that caused a lot of problems for customs officers. It caused a lot of embarrassment for the tourists and for our country because no foreigner abroad could think that a country is so backward that if you have a fluorescent pink camouflage vest, it is going to be seen as a threat to the state.
Why can't
you have no arguments from me? I think it's ridiculous and it should be removed.
There's absolutely nothing that can make it be perceived that if it is you repeal this law, it is going to affect national security. Nothing. The full camouflage and the resemblance of the defense law. So as I said, the Defense Act has a law, but then Customs has another. They piggyback from that law and they misinterpreted the wording. So whereas the Defense Act 1401 says camouflage in the resemblance of the defense force, which is what you will see here, the back here, that green, that is the defense force camouflage. You know, if somebody wears that full and they're walking somewhere, you can very well believe that this person is a member of the defense force and you may give him that leeway. It may cause him to get into somewhere that he shouldn't be. So it's give and take on that. Let's not go there. Let's go to the point of the customs.
Makes sense.
And
Gary, without giving out anything that may compromise national security, because I know you're always very careful about that. We want to talk a bit about several issues this morning. The issue of CCTV cameras. You were commissioner for 3 years, so you would have had information and access to CCTV camera footage in the execution of your duties and gathering data to solve crimes in the country as head of the police service. And we had information from a question posed by MP for Barataria Salma Saddam Hussein recently to the Minister of National Security, which indicated that of the 1,700 or so CCTV cameras, about 700 or 800 were inactive. What was your perspective on that while you were commissioner? Is it that they would have done an audit before, because you were commissioner from the end of the first term of the PNM in this incarnation of Dr. Rowley, right?
Correct.
Was there an audit done of the number of active CCTV cameras with a view to either maintaining or replacing the ones that became obsolete and unfixable? What is the approach on that? Because that confuses me, that something as useful as having an active CCTV camera network to aid law enforcement in gathering data to solve crime and criminals is a point of contention in this country.
Yeah, I have to admit, the government, they were dealing with it. There was that concern. I think what caused the problem is that they decided to do a new tender process. And the new tender process, this company came out of the woodwork, Johnson or whatever it is. And they all of a sudden, they got the full tender to
what does that mean, come out of the woodwork?
Well, I mean, because they were looking at the name of the company. I'm not here to criticize anyone or to question how tender process was done. but all of a sudden this company just came out and they became the new providers for it. So because of that, there's a lot that had to change. And so whereas they had the initial company that would have provided 1,700, you'd have thought that all it will take is for them now, because there's a maintenance project, there's a degree of making sure that those persons will be responsible to repair and to maintain the cameras. That was not done. There was a whole new tender that was done. Then after, there was some leak that came out in the Ministry of National Security where the tender and the cost was revealed prior to, so they had to start over again. So there were a number of different factors that caused this to be delayed constantly, to the point where they finally decided that a new company will come and take over. And by that new company taking over, it caused the project to be delayed even further to get those 700 odd cameras repaired. Having said that, it still didn't matter. The 50% odd that were operational, why were they not being used after I left? The fact is that the Commission of Inquiry into the attempted coup in 1990 stated that the country needed a national operations center.
You're giving a lot of information. So although there was a change in whatever procurement decision made to the provider to change to Johnson, because that company's name came up recently, the ones that were left operational were not used? Is that what you're saying? And if so, why not? So there was 700 still operational and they were not used? Why is that?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm coming to. So I just wanted to start it from the Commission of Inquiry recommended the National Operations Center because one hand, they knew what the other was doing. There was no real-time video footage. The country wasn't seeing anything. And it's similar to what happened after 9/11, where NYPD will piggyback and take cameras from even the private sector and have it all in one police plaza. So when I went to NYPD, I saw what happened as the Minister of National Security. Then we formed the National Operations Center at Knowsley, and it was set with representatives from the police, the army, the Coast Guard, the customs, the immigration, everybody working together, having representatives, and we monitoring what is going on. That's after I left. For some strange, Minister Dillon decided to send that under the SSA, which was as dumb as you could get, because that is an operational system to ensure you're watching what is happening in the country in real time. When I became commissioner, I then went there to Knowsley, got a feed of all those cameras to form the operational command center and the commissioner's command center in the police admin building. That is when we had the 150 men coming down into Port of Spain to destroy Port of Spain. We used that to save Port of Spain from being destroyed because they were coming here to destroy Port of Spain that day. And that now would allow us to be monitoring everything. Those 700 cameras were good enough at the time. That is why people will see every time there's a traffic congestion, we could immediately send a police officer out. If there's a 999 call, we could look and see the situation and know exactly what are the police vehicles in closest proximity. That is no longer there. And because of that, so there's no operational unit that is monitoring all the cameras to ensure you can have an immediate response. The cameras are only there after the fact. But the value of those cameras, it provides real-time video footage. The real-time video footage could only be of value if you have officers on the ground monitoring the cameras. So if at any time, it's not to say that you're staring at 700 cameras, but as soon as there's a 999 call, there's a traffic congestion, there's an accident, you immediately get the feed of that camera, you see what is happening, and then you contact the emergency response unit teams, the fire services, or whoever to respond to that situation. That is no longer there.
You're saying that is not happening at present?
Yeah, well, you can see, when last have you ever seen a police officer in a traffic congestion? When last have you seen police patrols anywhere? It is shut down.
No, I'm speaking about the monitoring of the cameras. You're saying that is not happening anywhere?
No, it's not. What is happening, there's no link to the monitoring to the operation on the ground. So it means that if you're monitoring, you must have an immediate link to units to be on the ground. So it's similar to like one police plaza. You see something from a 999 call, you can immediately now look at the vehicles in closest proximity because you have GPS on the vehicles monitoring their area of responsibility to say that they stay in the location. All that has been removed. So when we had...
Gary, hold up. Because we have heard from other commissioners since you that these things are in fact being monitored, and even through the Ministry of Works and Transport, because there's a link because of the traffic issues and so on, that they also have a monitoring area. You're saying that is not happening?
No, it is there, but it is not. There's no link between that and operations on the ground. The value of the live cameras is to make sure that immediately you can have an immediate response. And that's where the criminals have realized now, I could go to Residence nightclub, shoot someone in the head, and the commissioner's residence that is next door, the St. James station is 100 meters away. The police will turn up 45 minutes later. I could go in Belmont and kill 4 people. There's not going to be a response. What we had in police admin building and the operation command center at Knowsley, we had about 20 odd persons, civilians and police officers monitoring. So if at any time there's a 999 call, we link all of the cameras. We can see when the vehicle is escaping. We can now look at the camera to see where they're heading, and then look at the vehicles in closest proximity through the GPS. We could now tell vehicle number 35 from Diego Martin, vehicle number 23 from Port of Spain. You need to go to the corner of so-and-so, you'll intercept vehicle so-and-so. That's how we were able to, a few moments later, it wasn't by VAPs. It was based on a scientific approach by using the 700 cameras from an operation command center, getting live information fed to the units on the ground.
But I can't even begin to imagine, based on what we've been going through in this country, every day, that is not happening.
Wendell, it's just, I'm sorry to say, but it's just natural political pettiness.
But that's not even politics. We don't know who committing the crime. We don't know who the victims of crime. We don't know that is the opposition being harmed, if you know what I mean. So we don't really care. We can't know that. You just depressed me there, yes?
But the thing is, it can change. I mean, I'm not here to play the political game and blame the PNM. I mean, I would have seen similar situations may have taken place when the PNM left office. It has been a bad precedent by administrations that when you change, shut down, dismantle, remove. And it is sad. And it happened with me as the minister when I had the Rapid Response Unit, the National Operations Center, the National Security Special Operation Group, the National Training Academy. Eddie Dillon shut down everything. And then when I became commissioner and I formed the Emergency Response Patrol, SORT, the social media response team, the police app, the online reporting, the app reporting, the real-time video, the body cameras, the dashboard cameras, all of that was shut down as well.
What would drive the incidents that we saw recently?
Oh, sorry.
Let me finish this point, Paul. If truth be told, you were also part of a government that came in 2010 that shut down everything that the previous government had.
No, I was a national security advisor at the time. When I became minister, I piggybacked on a lot I saw that the PNM did. So whereas the PNM, they were looking at the OPVs, I got the dormant vessels at 1.2 billion less. When the PNM had the SORT, SAUTT, when I became commissioner, I cheated and I called it SORT. So when the PNM had the helicopters, I was getting drones. It's not helicopters, the blimp. So I saw the value of certain things that would have been done by the PNM. I'm not here to play politics. I looked at the bad and the ugly and I was able to implement those things. That is what politicians should do.
Okay.
When you see the two particular incidents in the between Sunday and Monday, that in one instance a car pulls up in Belmont and just shoots 4 men, and then police find in Arima/Blanchisseuse a car with 3 bodies of men executed. What does that tell you is happening?
What is happening is that the criminals have become brazen. They've now understood that the product of opportunity is there. There's no deterrent. There's no high visibility by the law enforcement officials. There's no rapid response. And so what they're doing now is that they're making most of the product of opportunity. But my point being is that it can turn around. We did so much research when we formed that Emergency Response Patrol, ERP. We looked at, we have 9 divisions in the police service. We put 10 vehicles in each division. So for example, Diego Martin, imagine 3 vehicles patrolling 24/7 in Caranage, Petite Valley, Diego Martin, and 1 in Cocorite. If at any time there was a 999 call, you will get a response in less than 3 minutes. And that was factual. We made sure that the 999 system didn't have persons being put on hold for 45 minutes. You made sure the person will answer immediately. We had the online and app reporting so persons can do and give us information, so that what we were doing was something known as predictive policing. We saved about 40 odd lives, especially because of the Special Operation Response Team by predictive policing, Paul, doing just what you spoke about. We will get information from citizens that these guys have now put weapons in a vehicle and they're heading to a location, and we will stop the murders from taking place. So the 342 murders in my last year, which was the lowest number of murders in 17 years, wasn't by accident. It was by predictive
So
policing.
given your experience, what do you think drove those two incidents? What is that? Just retaliation and gang warfare? What drove those two incidents?
Well, it will be retaliation, but my point being is that if it is that proper deterrents are there, the criminal elements will not be so brazen to feel that they can just be shooting people in cold blood in the middle of broad daylight. And that is the point. They now believe that they can do it. When you go to a residence nightclub and shoot someone and just walk away, because you know that the police will turn up in 30, 40 minutes. There's no fault of the police. The police can only operate as good as the technology that is given to them and the leadership that is provided for them. And if it is that you take away the National Operations Center, the Operational Command Center, the GPS tracking on the police vehicles, the 999 system being in 12 persons are supposed to be there 24 hours a day, there are no 1 and 2. Because I told Stuart Young to hand it over to the police, we'll man it fully. They kept it in the Ministry of National Security, which is why when people call 999, sometimes you're back on hold for 45 minutes. All of these things now is as cause the criminals to realize the product of opportunity is there. I could kill in cold blood. I could walk away without even running. Home invasions had stopped. There was no such thing as home invasions. You jump over the wall, then you'll hear a few moments later. It's because as soon as someone made that 999 call, you press that SOS on your phone, immediately we will look at the vehicles in closest proximity using the GPS tracking, and we'll close in on you. Kidnappings ended because it's the only time we were able to stop kidnappings using technology. The kidnappers couldn't understand how we were kicking down doors, intercepting vehicles with the victims in the trunk or in the back or in the house, because we were able to use the technology provided. All that is required is for the Prime Minister to swallow his pride, have a discussion with me. I will show him what is required, what can be done. And I'm not saying that everything will be back to how it was 2 years ago, but it will drastically peg back the criminals. The criminals have realized that every single thing that was there 2 years ago that put fear in them is no longer there.
You know what I wanted to ask? When we talk about those situations, like what took place in Belmont, etc., I know you're talking about the integration of the command centers, how it's connected to cars on the ground and the response time. Is it that we don't really need air support anymore? Or is air support something that we should consider in some form or fashion? Because we always talk about it here and saying, if we had air support, because you have to use the roads. As Wendell said this morning, if you're exiting out of Belmont, there are only certain ways to exit out of Belmont in terms of following a vehicle. And if you have air support, you can make that easier. Is it that control center and the 700 cams and the interconnection was enough?
No, definitely not. You hit the nail on the head there, Richard. Again, I did a lot of research in different countries. And again, looking at what the Patrick Madigan administration had with the Goodyear blimp. Welcome to the 21st century, Wendell. What you need was drones. And the drones will turn night into day. It can lock onto a vehicle. So when we speak about trying to secure our borders, for example, the drones that I was getting was able to go like 3,000 meters above sea level, lock onto any vessel that is entering our waters, lock onto it, be able to pick up a vehicle that will now meet the vessel, pick up the license plate, lock onto that vehicle and see exactly where that vehicle will go. That is how you secure your country. That's how you secure your borders. And similar, Richard, the same drones what I was getting was to be used not just to monitor like a hot pursuit or whatever, but simple things as traffic congestions. Traffic congestions, if you recall, it's not accidental. Like 2 years ago, you were hardly seeing traffic. Every time there was traffic, we had a police officer on site. The drones now will be able to fly over, pinpoint what is the problem, and then get fire services.
If the police, under everybody watching, including yours, don't want to wear a body cam, you really think they're going out there with a machine to hold up, to send up a drone to monitor anything?
No, that's the point. What happened? The drone now would have been part of the operational command center. So not. And let me tell you something. Those police officers in the operational command center, they were second to none. They were able to monitor. There was no traffic, even for Carnival around the Savannah, because we had the police officers there. Their morale was high. They were motivated, and they were ready to use the drones the same way as the National Operations Center. So
but they weren't ever ready to use body cams.
Yes, they were, because what I did is I signed a standard operational procedure. If at any time you leave your vehicle, the body cameras must be turned on. So if you go on a 2-hour patrol, a foot patrol through St. James, and you remember the days when you used to have police officers patrolling foot patrol, all that stopped since I left as well. So when they're patrolling St. James and we know they're on patrol for 2 hours, when you come back, if we realize the camera was not on, disciplinary action will be taken on you. And that is how we were able to measure their performance, by knowing if you're on a foot patrol, you've got to turn it on. If you have to go in a roadblock, if you have to go on a raid, if you have a warrant, you turn it on. It's a similar situation, gentlemen, as if you don't put systems to measure performance and make people accountable, they will do what they want. One of the biggest issues I had was police officers not attending court. The Police Service Commission, they were furious. They said, sort it out. And the reason being is that police officers will not attend court. Nothing will be done. I was able to reduce the police absenteeism by 87 to 93% in every division. And by doing that, is you don't attend court, I bust your throat. Or we had another police officer as a backup in case that police officer is absent or sick or died or retired. And that allowed criminals to realize, because a lot of them were committing crime knowing that the police officer would not even come to court. So unless you put systems to measure their performance and make them accountable, similar to the body cameras, they just wouldn't use it. You've got to put disciplinary measures and stick to it and put those standard operational procedures. And failure for you to adhere to it, well, then you will pay the price.
Do you think the 100 volunteer TTDF officers as assigned into action by the president will make a difference?
Well, just to clarify that, the 100 volunteers, this has been going on for years after years after years. Hearing people saying that the sector say they welcome it. This has been done for the last decade plus. It's a template that you just change the year and you bring out the 100 volunteers. These 100 volunteers, and just to clarify, they are members of the reserves. It's now known as the Defense Force Reserves, not the Volunteer Defense Force. So these reserves, the plan is always bring them out, pay them full salary for 3 months, and they will now guard the camps so that the regular soldiers can now come and complement the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. That has been the norm. So all this nonsense we are hearing from persons, criminologists and business sectors saying, oh, we welcome this move. This is a normal SOP that is done every single year. So this is not a panic button pressed by the commander-in-chief. This is not something the commissioner of police saying this is welcome news. She doesn't even know this has been done every single year. But the problem exists that we have 5,000 members of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. Bringing an extra 100 is not going to solve the problem, because the Chief of Defense Staff, if you recall, gentlemen, in March this year, he said the Defense Force is not trained to support the police. He's my batch. I couldn't believe that he does not know the role and function of the Defense Force. It is to support the police and aid to civil power. And they are trained to do this. I was there in Haiti in the United Nations. The police have been getting the support of the Defense Force through IATF and SAUT and so forth for decades. So for our Chief of Defense Staff to say that they are not trained to do this, it means that he's not going to send them out, which is why when I spoke about the 150 men coming down into Frederick Street during the COVID period with Molotov cocktails and bottles and pipes to destroy Port of Spain, and I asked the Defense Force for support, I was told that they will be on standby in Camp Ogden. If that was not time to get support of the Defense Force, thankfully, because we had the Operations Center, we did a strategic plan. We barricaded them. We used tear gas. We didn't fire a shot, and we diverted them back down into Duke Street to prevent Port of Spain from being destroyed. Did the police service get a thanks for it? Nothing. Not even not a word.
You're saying that the Defense Force told you as Commissioner of Police that we'll be on standby in Camp Ogden with
Correct.
Correct.
And Minister Stewart and I had a war in it, because I realized he as the minister was weak. He didn't understand the role and function of the Defense Force. And that's why the Defense Force, they don't come out. So you have 5,000 members of the Defense Force. You get about 100 of the 5,000 that support the IATF. That is not good enough. And this is not the fault of the soldiers and sailors and airmen. They want to work. They want to come out and perform. That's why they swore an oath. But because the Chief of Defense Staff is not aware of the role and function of the Defense Force, he's not aware of the training of the Defense Force personnel. And now what happens in the few patrols that you bring with them, the poor police officers now have to take their vehicles, go to Tetron, go to Camp Ogden, pick them up like if it's an Uber, transport them, do the patrols, drop them back to... It's a very untidy situation. In fact, the police prefer not to have them because it puts great inconvenience on the police. The Defense Force is a powerful institution. They should not be seen as only an institution that is there to help us after a coup every 30 years. There's a lot that they can do. They have to complement the police. They do not have powers of arrest, but they are trained to be part of roadblocks, cordon and search, being in patrols, being in operations with the police being at the forefront. That is all it takes. It has been done for decades, from General Ralph Brown, Brigadier Theodore, Brigadier Alfonso, John Sandy, Franklin. It has always been done. It's the first chief of defense staff that does not know the role and function of the defense force, and the first chief of defense staff that says, I don't think they are trained to do so. So bringing this extra 100, why you're bringing in an extra 100 when you as the chief of defense staff, you're still going to be reluctant to bring out the officers to support the police?
So what you just explained to us, Gary, is that the calling out of these 100 reserves, voluntary defense force officers, is merely to man the camps so that the actual soldiers can go out with the police? Is that what I
Yes, because remember, when you have camp Ogden, Tetron barracks, it takes a lot of soldiers to be able to man the camp on a regular basis. So it's not that these reserve personnel are going to go out on the patrols with the police. The regular soldiers who have a lot more training would be the ones that will go out. So the perception of hearing people, how you could put volunteers to go out and patrol, that is not the case. So the defense force, they understand how this works. You bring in the reserves to guard the camps, to guard the guard boots and so forth, and to do the patrols around the camps, so that the regular soldiers who were previously doing that is required, can now be free up to be able to go and support and complement the police service in patrols outside.
So these reserves are largely retired people or people who exercise other function and just and are there in support of the defense force. Is that the understanding of these reserves?
Generally, yes. So they were previously known as the volunteer defense force, and now the defense force reserves. It will comprise mostly persons who would have retired from the defense force, but also persons who will be under the age of retirement age, but they signed up in the defense force to be a reserve rather than to be a regular soldier or sailor. And so if there's a time such as a state of emergency, an attempted coup, martial law, they'll then come and become full-fledged soldiers or sailors and work full-time. So what is done to ensure that they can work full-time, the commander-in-chief signs this template every year, take 100 of them so that they will get 3 months full salary. The employers of these persons are mandated to clear them, to give them the time off without any retaliation. And with that now, these reserves who have some basic degree of training, not the type of regular training that the regulars will have, so that they will stay in the camp, do the guard, and the regular soldiers will come out now to patrol with the police. But my point being, you have an air guard, for example, about 700 people in the air guard. There's no aircraft, there's no helicopter, there's not even a slingshot, there's not even a kite. They are all in PRCO. You're talking about 500 odd that apart from those who have to guard the camp in PRCO, that can come out and complement the police service. We need numerical superiority to peg back the criminals. It is a war out there. You can't have 5,000 persons staying in camp being on standby. And goes back to my point, gentlemen, when we had 150 men coming down into Frederick Street to destroy Port Spade, not one member of the defense force, thanks to Stuart Young, came out to support the police. The police had to do it on their own, thanks to the special operation response team.
We can't blame the minister. We don't have the facts to be able to say.
No, Wendell, I can tell you, Wendell, the minister is the one who will give approval for the defense force to come out. It's not the defense force makes the call. The minister has to make that call.
But you just said the current chief of defense staff don't have a clue what about the
but listen, that is the point. If the chief of defense staff will tell the minister, we're not trained, the minister will buy it. This wasn't a GSC meeting, this was quoted. The chief of defense staff said we are not trained to do so, which means he doesn't know the training of these soldiers.
There's another conversation about these proposed crime talks between the government and the opposition. Your name has been drawn in, as it is wont to be in many circumstances. And there's a lot of conversation about where the Prime Minister has named his team as being chaired by the Attorney General, a more senior counsel, and comprising the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Energy, Minister of Public Utilities, and somebody else. And so it seems the Prime Minister will not be chairing that meeting or in attendance. Do you think the talks will or can be of value even without the Prime Minister?
It can. I'm not saying that it'll destroy the whole talks by him not being there. I don't want to be so biased. But again, something of this magnitude, the biggest concern the country has right now is whether people are going to be alive in the following day. So this is where leadership by example comes in. I would think that he will want to be there. But if it is that you have an ego and you feel that you so despise the opposition, you don't want to be there, what else could there be more important than you not being there? You are the chair of the National Security Council. So, but having said that, it doesn't mean that the talks cannot be fruitful. It does not start off on the right foot when you start immediately to say, well, I'm not being there. 1, 2, we will have 5 people, you will have 4. 3, you shift the goalposts and you move it from government and opposition to automatically insert the word parliamentarians in a convenient way to ensure that I will not be there. Stop having such a bank over Gary Griffith. Let's just get the job done. Let's just work together and the country is seeing it. Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles could see that he's intimidated by me. He doesn't want to be in a meeting with me. He shifts the goalpost to use parliamentarians in the hope that I will not be there. You can't be that childish. We are in a war and we are losing that war. It is amazing that this country doesn't understand what we are going through right now. We have so many people crying, and rightfully so, of the concerns we see on the other side of the pond. But right here, we are in a war zone as well. We have lost tens of thousands of lives over the last few decades by people being murdered in cold blood. And we are speaking so much about the concerns and protesting and boycotting over what is happening in other countries. Where's the concern here? I would expect that persons who, regardless of what side of the political bench you're on, whichever political party you support, should demand from our leaders, let us circle the wagons, work together. I have no intention to keep all my ideas and my experience in my back pocket to hope that the government will fail to help me get in government in 2025. I will not be a patriot. My job is to save this country. And if it is that I can give some degree of advice to a government that does not know what to do because of their involvement by interfering with independent bodies to select commissioners of police and so forth that caused the problem in the first place, if I can assist in rectifying it, I will do so.
Gary, who is the members of the opposition team, though? Who are they? Because we have not heard any names. We have only heard your name bandied about.
But when I don't think you see how I will know what the members. You feel you could set me up with.
But it's not a setup question, Gary. Come on, you're talking about transparency, and I saw you.
No,
let me finish the question. Let me finish the question, please. So what you're saying, you have no knowledge of who may be included. There have been no discussion between yourself and the leader of the opposition in terms of who may comprise that team. That's what you're saying. At
this time, yeah, because remember, I have my political party to lead. She has hers. I am not going to get involved in asking them, well, who are the people you intend to bring? If and when the time comes and they say, listen, it's going to be, the number is going to be 5 or 4, whatever, then we will discuss. I would expect, though, I mean, I could only speak as a citizen. You know that the UNC, they will have persons who are shadow ministers for national security and so forth. So those might be the players that you might get involved in it. So that's all I could say at this time. What I can say is that
so if you're asked to sit around the table in crime talks with Anand Ram Logan, Anil Roberts, and Rudal Munilal, would you do it?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
If you're asked to sit, I know you hear me. If you're asked to sit around the table with them, would you?
Well, if it pertaining to what? Pertaining to these crime talks?
Crime talks, yes.
If it is that the UNC has selected persons and they feel that these individuals are going to assist in trying to provide a direction to help the country in reducing crime, it is not my intention to be able to pinpoint and target as to who the UNC should have and not have. It reminds me of the same thing, gentlemen, with the Jack Warner situation. Jack Warner holds no position of authority in the UNC, and people are concerned that, Gary, why are you working with Jack Warner? Jack Warner is a supporter of the UNC. So unless the person has some degree of authority and there's some red flag of that individual, my issue is that if I am part of the talk, the NT is part of the talks, the UNC will have their individuals. What is an important point, Wendell, is whether it is Anand Ramlogan, Rudy Munilal, whoever. The biggest concern, and likewise on the other side of the fence, look at the names that are being called to attend the meetings. The individuals, and this is nothing to cast anything on politicians, but politicians are not experts. So you notice how the schedule is set of legislative agenda. So we have now, the Prime Minister has now formed a subcommittee of Parliament to meet outside of Parliament to discuss legislation. That is defeating the purpose of the exercise. Legislation is a very small percentage of what is required now. We need quick wins. Quick wins is tactics, high visibility, rapid response, policing, making sure that you peg back criminal elements. Legislation are things that we will see the results in 2 years, 3 years time. So having politicians, whether it is the Annan, the Stuart Young, all the names that you're calling, they are not experts, they are not strategists, they are not tactical, they are not operational. They are civilians who will come up with ideas. What is required for us to turn this back are the persons who have the expertise in law enforcement, not criminologists either. A criminologist has no qualification, training, or experience in law enforcement. We need to have persons who are qualified in the field of law enforcement to come up with a strategic and tactical approach to put a proper operational plan to peg back criminals. Having politicians sit down in a table to come with a legislative agenda is very cosmetic.
Well, what I saw from the Prime Minister's proposal, the group he chose, and Paul pointed it out too, they are all attorneys at law, and they are all members of the, if I'm not, except maybe Randall Mitchell, of the National Security Council. So in other words, it's his highest group of people that he would have brought together to say, let's meet with the opposition and to deal with this issue. We don't know how.
Well, actually, when the highest group of people would actually include him, so that's not a really correct statement.
Well, I too am agreeing that he should be there. But let's say he's not there. At least you have the Minister of National Security. You have the other members of the National Security Council. As I say, I'm not sure that Randall Mitchell is one, but he's an attorney at law also too. So I don't know how he fit in there, but
as Gary said, the missive was couched in the context of discussing legislation.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable point that you're making, Gary. Yeah. That it's obviously a legislative approach
which
to
is not necessarily going to be the immediate peg. But before we end, Gary, I want to ask a question, because that is one side of it and an important side of it, because that's the immediate thing facing the population. There's a question that keeps coming up in this country based on the fact that you were a minister, a national security advisor, were a minister of national security, and were a commissioner of police. And the issue of white-collar crime and the real funders and drivers of the importation of illegal guns, and also the transshipment of drugs, the transnational drug issue, which seems to be driving the gang warfare. And if you think we as a country are doing all we can, or are serious, quite frankly, about dealing with those people who may be big shots, who may be posing as legitimate business, who we've had this conversation about for decades, but don't seem to have made the kind of progress, or have we made the progress in terms of dealing with that?
Well, I think that's probably why I was people wanting me removed. I started stepping on big toes. I was involved in several investigations of persons not with their pants hanging down and wearing a white vest, but with shirt and tie and jacket, and who are closely affiliated with persons who may be in parliament. And I got in it too deep, and people started being offended. They started being concerned. They whispered in the wrong ears. And the one thing we have with all politicians, who gets the last whisper in the ear is who you believe. And that is what happened, because that's exactly what I was doing. I formed the white-collar crime unit specifically for that purpose. And that white-collar crime unit comprised the fraud squad in the police service, the ACIB, the FIB, and the cybercrime, bringing them all together.
Operational. How deep is this issue in the country? Because what you try to do and we'll stop, if that's the case, that's fine. We take that conversation. But how deep is this issue of that cadre of the society seemingly being untouchable, as they may call it?
Well, it makes it more difficult for the police to do what is required when it is that we actually give the individuals, like, for example, you give a gang member a $5 million state contract to build a box train that costs $50,000. And they're able to use the funds now to be able to purchase more weapons, purchase more drugs, probably pay off police officers, hire police officers to protect them, probably even in other arms. But that's on
the state side. I'm talking specifically about people who import illegal guns and transship drugs. And I'm not saying they're unrelated, but I'm talking specifically about that side of it.
Yeah, and again, that is where we have to use hard policing and tactical strategies to prevent it. The US confirmed with me that 95 to 97% of the illegal guns that enter our country come through the legitimate ports of entry. So all of this OPV and the weapons coming from Venezuela, it's a lie. The weapons that come from the mainland are outdated things from in the days with the Buccaneers. So what is happening is coming from North America, the legal ports of entry. And I drafted the policy for the Prime Minister to form a border protection unit, because you can't just have you have that one rogue customs officer, that one rogue stevedore, that one rogue driver, and that one rogue watchman. We lose 10 containers a year. A container could hold 1,000 firearms. So what the police may seize in 10 years, we could probably get it back onto the streets in one night. That is how important it is to have that border protection unit. I have spoken about it. It will comprise members, all polygraphed, of the police, customs, coast guard, immigration, army, all working together, one hand seeing what the other is doing, undercover officers, and making sure we have a proper comprehensive system to monitor and scan all the containers. All of that was rejected. The mobile scanners I had that could be used to assist the port, that was removed after I left. They pulled the plug in.
Why is customs seemingly like an enclave in this country? The police can't go in there unannounced without authorization. We've had these issues with customs. So why is customs like a state unto itself in this country?
Well, that's how it is set. If someone jumps over the gate into the port, the police can't even pursue that person. It's like a different country. And now there could be some value to it. You don't want any police officer to have full access to walk into a port at any time. But at the same time, because of that, the same way you're going to have rogue elements in the police, you're going to have rogue elements in customs. The only way you could deal with that, gentlemen, is to have a border protection unit with all the persons being heavily polygraphed. One hand is watching the other. The guards are guarding the guards. You'll be able to extract the Trojan horses. That's the best way to deal with it. Other than that, we are going to spin top in mud. The weapons are going to continue to come in. And I can't understand why I will give a Prime Minister a border protection unit that could greatly minimize this problem, and he has rejected it. Why I will have 2 mobile scanners that can assist in monitoring the weapons in the containers, and the plug was pulled. It can't just be incompetence, gentlemen. It can't.
Are you in support of the polygraph bill being taken to Parliament today?
There's a little technicality to that. The polygraph testing is subjective. That's one. So someone based on him having a cold, panicking, a sinus problem, and it triggers. You can't, and it is very difficult to discipline someone based on a polygraph test. Additionally, the polygraph test is not admissible in court. So even if you try to make it mandatory for the individual and he refuses, and you take disciplinary action, he takes the police to court, he can now, the same court would say, but we don't recognize a polygraph test. So there are a lot of technicalities. What I can recommend, rather than make it mandatory, is 1, it is mandatory for you to enter any arms of the protective services as a recruit. 2, it is important and it is mandatory for you to do the polygraph test if you want to be in a special unit, such as the special branch, the special forces, the FIU. 3, if it is that we believe that there's enough intelligence that can verify that you're involved in some degree of questionable activity, we can voluntarily ask you to do the polygraph test. If you refuse, it can give the Commissioner of Police, for example, the authorization to transfer, which is what I did. The biggest concern is a lot of illegal drugs and weapons come through our ports, through our shoreline. So the stations as Cedros, Secaucus, and so forth. I asked all of the officers, are you willing to do a voluntary polygraph? Do you financially benefit from drugs and weapons entering the country? Those who refuse, I transfer them to the middle of the country. And there's that I could do. So that is what can happen. This bill, I see it as a cosmetic arm, because if it is that you believe that protective services officers are involved in criminal activity, do proper police investigative systems to arrest them, not try to tell them we need to polygraph you because we do have enough evidence to arrest you. Because you're basically telling the person we need to polygraph you to get you arrested. It's not going to work. So if you use those 3 options that I said, and you put more focus on a proper investigative process to arrest the criminal elements in the protective services, that would be of more value.
Gary, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much, Gary Griffith, for being with us on the Power Breakfast Show.
Y'all have a great day. Be safe.
Yes, you too. I'll lighten up at the cemetery later. Folks, have a wonderful day. Remember to let go and let God.
Yep, this is where we wrap up the Power Breakfast Show. Just reminding you, of course, that theatre is on this weekend. Bacchanal, Bubble, and Bad Behavior is on Saturday at 8:30 and Sunday at 6:30 at Napa. The box office at Napa opens from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. And, of course, you can also get tickets at all the usual outlets. You can check RSRR Productions theatre page and you get all of the information, even how to purchase online. So get your tickets early. Of course, the ad is in the Express today on page 19, so you can get all of the information on the ad today. You should not miss it. It is hilarious. Have a fantastic day, whatever you're doing, and remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health. All right, Richard, Wendell, Stephen, Paul Richards, thank you so much. Talk to you guys bright and early tomorrow morning. All right, let's get into our news brief. If he is here.
This